So today's episode is all about that internal battle leaders have between being efficient and being effective. Our world is so busy. It really is easy to get caught in the busy trap, constantly on the hamster wheel, without questioning whether we're even focusing on the right things, the things that move us forward. So today we'll unpack that with a bit of science to back us up. Welcome to Unshakable Her, the podcast helping women in leadership build the influence, visibility and presence to make promotion inevitable. I'm your host, Caroline Esterson. Let's get started. By the end of today's episode, you'll have three things. One, you'll understand why feeling uncertain after a promotion isn't a confidence problem. It's your brain adapting to a completely new leadership identity. Two, you'll discover the leadership shift almost every new manager misses, why working harder may make you feel productive, but it doesn't necessarily make you more effective, which is what you need to be. And three, you'll leave with a simple way of thinking that helps you see difficult situations more clearly, make better decisions, and stop carrying every leadership problem on your own. Sound good? Well, let's go. If you listened on Monday, you'll know that Cara Mitchell is sitting in her car outside the house after her first week, telling herself everything's fine. You'll also know that it isn't entirely fine. And here is the thing about that moment. It's not about confidence or resilience. It's not even really a leadership problem. It's a neuroscience problem. And once you understand what is actually happening in your brain when you step into a new leadership role, the whole thing gets a lot less scary and a lot more workable. So let's look at that. The science bit, because facts beat fear every time. When Cara sat down at her desk on that first Monday, her brain was doing something very specific, something that has a name. Psychologists call it identity disruption, the cognitive and emotional turbulence that kicks in when the story you tell about yourself no longer matches the situation you work in. Cara's story for 5 years was, I'm good at this work, I know these people, I understand how this place operates. And then in one Friday afternoon conversation, all three of those things became partially, temporarily, not quite true. She is now in a role she's never done before, with a team who relate to her differently, in a dynamic she doesn't yet have the pattern recognition to navigate. Her brain notices that mismatch and it responds the way brains always respond to uncertainty, with a threat detection response. Low level, background, and persistent. That slightly weird feeling that something is off, but you're not really sure exactly what it is. That she's one wrong move from being found out, and that everyone else in the building seems to know something she doesn't. This isn't imposter syndrome in the traditional sense as a sign that you're not ready. It's something more fundamental. It's her brain accurately registering that she's in new territory now, and then catastrophizing about it in ways that are not remotely useful. And here's why that matters. Identity disruption is temporary. It resolves when experience catches up with the role, when the pattern recognition builds, when the new story, I'm someone who leads this team, starts to feel true because it's been lived enough times to stick. Cara is just at day one of that process. This is exactly where everyone is at day one, no matter whether it's your first promotion into leadership or moving to become the CEO. It's new. The gap between who you were and who you are is a transition point. Nobody skips that. The ones who look like they did just hid it better. While we're here, let's be accurate about imposter syndrome now, because it gets misused constantly. Most people treat imposter syndrome as a single experience, that generalized feeling of not being good enough, of waiting to be found out. But that framing is frankly too broad to be useful. If you can't distinguish between what type of imposter experience you're having, you can't address it specifically, and you end up with generic advice, things like believe in yourself, fake it till you make it. That lands nowhere because it was aimed at nothing in particular. Dr. Valerie Young, who spent 30 years researching this, identified 5 specific patterns. each with its own trigger, its own flavour, and critically, its own antidote. Let me share these with you now to see if it triggers anything for you. First up, we have the perfectionist. This person sets impossibly high standards and treats anything short of perfect as failure. We have the superwoman or superman who overworks to compensate for feelings of inadequacy. The natural genius believes competence should feel effortless and interprets difficulty as proof of inadequacy. The soloist. This person believes asking for help is evidence of not being good enough. And then we have the expert, who feels that they can never know enough before they act. Kara's doing at least 3 of these things in the first week. She's the superwoman, staying until 7 answering emails to compensate. She's the natural genius, feeling that this should feel easier and interpreting the difficulty as a sign something's wrong. And she's the soloist, managing the Dom situation alone rather than asking JP for guidance on how the announcement was handled. Naming which pattern you're in is navigation, because each one has a specific antidote, and we'll come back to Kara's antidotes across the season. Now, I want to focus back on Kara's first week and talk about something that nobody has pointed out to her yet. She answered 29 emails on day 1. She stayed until 7. She prepared a proper meeting agenda. She arrived early every morning. By every traditional measure of effort, she worked her socks off that first week. And yet, the team meeting fell flat. Dom's distant. She doesn't really know where she stands with JP. The overlap day that she wants to establish has not even been raised yet. She's keeping herself busy because it makes her feel like she's functioning well. This is in danger of becoming the norm and a habit for her. And maybe it's not such a useful habit after all. What do you think? So let's talk about the distinction between efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency is doing something right, whereas effectiveness is doing the right thing. Kara has been extremely efficient. She's not yet been effective. And the reason is that she's been optimizing for the wrong metric, for effort visible to herself rather than for impact visible to her team. And this is almost universal pattern in new managers. We default to behaviours that made us good at our previous role, producing things, completing things, answering things, because those behaviours feel logical, safe and measurable. But the new role requires a completely different set of behaviours. Listening, deciding, creating conditions for others. And those feel less certain, less measurable, and considerably more exposing. Karen knows how to clear an inbox. She's still learning how to build a team. They're not the same skill set and they don't respond to the same effort. There's a framework I use in my consultancy work that I want to bring in here because it's directly relevant to every mistake Kara has made so far and every mistake she's about to make. It comes from the world of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and it's called the 3 perceptual positions. It's one of the tools that has travelled well out of that world and into coaching and leadership development, and for good reason. Let me explain it in a bit more detail. When we're in any situation, for example, a difficult conversation or a team meeting or a moment of conflict, we have access to 3 different perspectives, but most people only use one. The first perspective is the first position. This is about looking at something from your own perspective, what you see, think, feel, and need. This is where Kara's been living all week. She's understandably been inside her own head. The list of 17 things, the 43 emails, the 4 minutes in the car. First position is essential, but it is limiting. And it could have easily become her default habit, which would be the very thing that holds her back in her career. Now, second position is the other person's perspective. You step mentally into their shoes, not to agree with them, but to understand them. If Kara had taken second position with Dom before that team meeting announcement went out, if she'd asked herself, what is Dom likely to be feeling when he reads that email? What does he need that he's not going to get from 3 lines sent at 8:47? She'd probably have made a different move. She'd have gone to find him before the email landed. And then there's the third position. This is the helicopter view. You step outside both people and you look at the situation neutrally, a bit like watching a movie scene. And you think about what's actually happening here. What does the dynamic look like from the outside? What would a wise, neutral observer say about what both people need? The most effective leaders constantly move between all three perceptions fluidly, often without even thinking about it, because it becomes instinctive. This becomes their new pattern. Cara is currently stuck in the first position, which is where everyone starts. The shift to second and third position is what the rest of this season is about. So before we move on, let's just hold all three sciencey bits together for a moment. Identity disruption explains why Cara feels like a fraud in a job that she earned. The efficiency trap explains why she's working harder than anyone and still not making the impact she needs to make. And first position explains why she can't yet see either of those things clearly enough to change them. They're not three separate problems. They are the same problem, the transition showing up in three different places, in her feelings, in her behaviour, and in her blind spots. And here's the thing that matters most. None of this is fixed by working harder. All of it starts to shift the moment you understand what is actually happening, which you now do, and so does Cara, even if she doesn't know it yet. Not the club, just bad processes. The system's the problem, not you. Let's fix it for you and the next one in. So in this segment today, I want to go back and talk about the way Cara found out she had the job and the way her team found out too. JP said congrats, but didn't talk with her about the transition. She was well and truly on her own, wasn't she? He then quickly sent 3 lines in an email at 8:47 in the morning without any framing. There wasn't any conversation with the team about what the changes meant for them, just a fact dropped into inboxes and a request to congratulate her. It's a bit crap, really, isn't it? When you look at it cold like that, but honestly, it happens all the time. JP did what most managers do when they're not sure what the right thing is. The minimum viable communication and move on. And it costs Cara weeks of relationship repair that she should never have had to do. And here's the structural points. Most organisations have no framework for how a promotion is communicated to the team it affects. There's a proper process for the decision. There's paperwork. There's HR sign-off. There is almost never a protocol for the human moment, the conversation that tells the people most effective what this means for them, what will change and what won't. Dom didn't need a speech. He needed 30 seconds. I wanted to tell you myself before the email went out. I'd love a coffee to chat about it. That's not about a leadership masterclass. It's basic human respect. And Cara wasn't set up to give it because nobody told her it was hers to give. And this is a systems problem. The organisation failed the transition for Cara and for her team. And naming that is not about making excuses. It is understanding the landscape so that you can navigate it better than the system designed for you. Remember, the most important conversation in a promotion is not the one with the person who gets it, although that is important. It's the one with the people who now report to them. Most organisations don't have a process for that conversation, and that is the gap that Cara is standing in. So, as always, let's reflect with 3 questions for you right now. Where in your own role have you been optimising for efficiency when the job actually needed effectiveness? When you're in a difficult moment at work, which position are you usually in? First, second, or third? And what might shift if you move through the other positions too? Now, think about a transition you've gone through, a promotion, a new team, a change dynamic. What was the announcement that set the tone? And was it the right one? So if you are moving into a new line manager position, whatever level you're at, I've created a 90-day action plan for you to make the transition safe and doable. You'll find the link in the show notes. And remember, this isn't just for your first move into leadership. It might help you with every transition move you make from now on. So go grab it. And before we close, let's just do a quick review. You now understand that what Cara is feeling in week 1 has a name. That name is identity disruption, and it is temporary, predictable, and most definitely not evidence of anything being wrong. You understand the difference between being efficient and effective and why new managers default to the wrong one. And you've been introduced to the 3 positions, first, second, and third, which is the framework Cara is going to need for almost every difficult moment in the season ahead. On Friday, we make all of this practical. 3 specific moves, the first entry into the Unshakable playbook, and a closer that I hope you carry into your weekend. See you then. That's it for today. Before you go, if something in this episode made you think, that's why I do that, hit follow wherever you're listening, because that moment of recognition, that's where Unshakable starts. Remember, I'm in your corner. See you Friday.